Was recording.
Oh, it's recording now? Okay, it's recording. Woo! Success. Success. And thanks again to the help of the student. What's your name again, sir? Johnson. Okay. We are making progress, always moving forward into a brighter Anthropocene, post-climate change world with new technology. And you know, that's changed because you might remember last semester, I had to access this through my Gmail account. Remember, there was a way to do it through my Gmail account. Now we don't have to do it that way, but that's a change from the past. So that's the excuse for my ignorance. Like, I don't know what's doing it. But the university sends me messages about how you have to record the Zoom meeting, you have to record these class meetings and post them because somebody might want to access the class internationally, because I think the university is trying to market the university to international students. So they want our international students to be able to access the class material. And that's why one of the reasons they want me to and just see okay. They want me to Zoom record the classes, even though we're in the class. So, and that's okay. Because we're all about progress here and being on the cutting edge. And so I think smart attendance is Chol Sok. Is that smart attendance? Attendance?
Yes.
Okay, Chol Sok.
You can change the language.
Here? Yeah, oh, yes.
Black one. Black one.
Oh, English. Okay, so go back to I do. And again, we gotta do it again. I just messed it up. And that have something European Union attendance. And you go to, and why is it already? Speaking European Union. Why is it already? Oh. True. I was doing the European Union class in the office, so I ran over here. And smart attendance, and your number is 696. 696 is your smart attendance number. Let's see if I can find it. Zoom class. So chat and 696. Ta-da! Okay. So hopefully now I don't have to worry about any of that, and we're being recorded. And then I got to make sure I end the class at 10:30 because I have to save the recording so I can move it, transfer it. Okay, so let's go back to the cyber campus. And you saw from the assignments that I posted yesterday that your take-home final exam is posted there. So it's due 19 days from today, on the 8th today. So it's due November 27th, and same format as the midterm paper. So you understand what you need to do, except this time you're going to use and cite information from at least 3 chapters, from chapters 9, week 9 through week 15. That is chapters 13 through 25 as a requirement for the class. And the topic is analyze the ways in which the events and trends of the 1970s diminished America's economic power and international influence and challenged Americans' confidence in both, in America's economic power and influence. How these events and trends contribute to the resurgence of conservatism in American politics and government. How do these changes relate to the election of Donald J. Trump as US President in 2016 with the slogan, "Make America Great Again." And that's your final exam paper topic. And then we will again also meet individually to discuss the paper. I had to do it on Zoom last semester. I don't know if we'll be doing it on Zoom or in my office. Can you see that? I can turn off one of the lights there. In my office on in December, but and you can come to my office, or we do it over Zoom. I have to find out what the university wants to do in the new format that they're adopting now that we are trying to go back to a post-pandemic environment. And okay, and then we'll continue to use Zoom because, as I mentioned, it has a lot of, the term is affordances. I keep coming across this term on the internet. I attend lots of international conferences on Zoom, and the term is these Zoom technologies give you affordances. I keep coming across this word. So Zoom affords you a participation without being physically present. Zoom affords you recording the classes and posting the classes, the recorded classes, so you can see them again. It affords you, I can distribute files to you without having to waste lots of resources on photocopy expenses. I mean, when I taught this class in previous semesters, all of the files I showed you in class, I give to you in class, I had to print all of that out. I had to ask the secretaries in the office to print out lots of paper, lots of ink, and then I would throw out these papers to people. Now I just go on Zoom, sign me to the breakout rooms, and send you the files, and you download them. And we protect the trees, we protect the environment from evil carbon pollution that causes greenhouse gas heating. Ooh. See, affordances. So it sounds kind of funny in American English, but I think British and Australians, they like to use that word a lot. So we have these affordances that we want to continue to exploit, even as we are meeting face to face, because the idea is, one of the ideas is that you are college students, and I think people are still trying to figure out what this means, but somehow what's important for you is the face-to-face experience. That in terms of getting the most educational value, and education understood in a broad sense, or I have to, you know what, I gotta remember to do this because I don't think it records very well if I'm not speaking to a microphone. Right, so I got a little glove thing. And speaking to it because Zoom doesn't record very well. And it's all tied up here. Welcome to the COVID-19 world. You're all in here, so. So one of the, what was I saying? That supposedly an important part of the educational experience is you being in class together, because that means you talk to each other. You go to get coffee at the Cafe Angelo. No, it's not really Cafe Angelo. What is it now? It's out of business anyway. A coffee shop. You go to Perry Baguette and talk to each other, and you study together, and you make friends, and that means you have to come to campus. So being here on campus is like really important. So rather than just continue to communicate, so you can barely see that. Okay, I have to make it bigger. And so hopefully that is true. And we want it to be so. What the heck is this? So I think that's good enough. So I'm going to keep using this microphone. And you know what we need? You know what they need to give us, professors? Wireless microphones. So I can wear a headset and with a microphone, so I don't have to do this. I think this is going to break. So I'm going to ask the university to give me a wireless headset so I don't need to carry this microphone, because as I said, it does not record well the audio unless I speak into the microphone. So you can see there's the final exam assignment. And so let me open up the my file here and go to the lesson plan. And all right, so far so good. And so Kang Tong-un, where's Kang Tong-un? Hi, Kang Tong-un. It's good to be able to see people face to face. She is going to be Khan on this debate topic. To South Koreans, America's defeat in Vietnam should have warned the Americans that they would lose in Afghanistan. And I have to say, I prepared these debate topics in the summertime because we had to submit to the university our syllabus, our course plan in July. And then, of course, so I submitted this as a debate topic for week 11 in July. And then at the end of August, United States ran away from Afghanistan and the Kabul government just evaporated in Afghanistan. So I didn't expect it would collapse so quickly. Most people didn't, but indeed it did. And okay, so there was, if I had time to show you before class, I could show you these YouTube videos, but I'll maybe show that at another time, maybe on Friday when I meet with you for the 1 hour class before my other class on Friday later in the morning. So and maybe we might come back to that. But in terms of what to highlight now, okay, so what's a good way to begin? Okay, so we're now into the post-war Cold War era, and those of you who've had classes to me, you know I'm very interested in the Cold War and studying the Cold War, and in preparation for the discussion of the Cold War, I want to do a role play exercise. So here is, but before I do that, well, let's do the Cold War exercise. So imagine it's 1946. It is right after the Cold War, World War II, and the United States emerges as by far this incredibly powerful country compared to the rest of the world, right? In 1946, 1947, the United States has the atomic bomb. The Soviet Union would not test an atomic bomb until 1949, but still about 5 years ahead of intelligence estimates in the United States. I heard yesterday that the prevailing estimate in the United States was that the Soviet Union would require 10 years to develop an atomic bomb, and it developed them in 4 years, not 10 years. But at this time, only the United States had the atomic weapon. There you see Ho Chi Minh, and next to him, I can't remember his name in Vietnamese, but he was the president a long time of Vietnam, and he was the military commander of the Viet Minh nationalist forces that fought the Japanese, and then, well, the French, and then the Japanese, and then the French again, and then Jap, and then the Americans. And the irony of this picture is that during the Second World War, when the Americans were fighting the Japanese, the Office of Strategic Services, the OSS, which was the predecessor to the American CIA, they had agents, Americans in Vietnam, working with Ho Chi Minh and the Viet Minh because they were fighting the Japanese. So Americans were providing weapons and training to him, Ho Chi Minh and the Viet Minh, during World War II as they were fighting for Vietnamese independence, now against Japan. And one of the last American men, a white man in the OSS who worked with that unit, in that unit to supply and support the Viet Minh, he died not too long ago. He died while I was here in Korea, just 4 or 5 years ago. He was in his 90s. So what's the significance of that? The Americans knew. I mean, they're not brain dead. They knew that they were working with him, that they had given him weapons and training, like they would later give training and weapons to Osama bin Laden and the Islamists in Afghanistan, because they were fighting and killing the Soviet Union, the Soviet army in Afghanistan. And then later, of course, Osama bin Laden and the others would then turn against the United States once the Soviet Union was gone. And this is jumping ahead towards the end of the semester, but the rise of political Islam, political Islamic actors in the Middle East is a reaction against and rejection against both the United States and the Soviet Union, both the American system and the Soviet communist system. Anybody here in English language, studying English language major, language and literature? I thought I remember 1 or 2 students. Yes, you like William Shakespeare? William Shakespeare is the most important writer in English language. In one of his plays, was it Romeo and Juliet? Somebody is dying, and he says to the hop of Capua and the house of Capua and the house of, what, I don't know, the two ruling families. He's dying. He says, "A pox, a disease, a pox on both your houses, your families, your houses, your families, a pox on both your houses." The rise of political Islam declares a pox on both the Soviet communist system and the American capitalist imperial system. The Ayatollah Khomeini, who led the Islamic Revolution against the Shah of Iran, who the Americans helped put in power through a CIA coup in 1953. Ayatollah Khomeini talked about the Satanic West, the great Satan, the Satanic West, Satan, the enemy of God, and the criminal East. The criminal East was the Soviet Union. So, and Ho Chi Minh, in a sense, was also declaring a pox on both your houses. I'm not fighting for the American system. I'm not fighting for the French. I'm not fighting for anyone. I'm fighting for Vietnam. And right now, we're being occupied by the Japanese. And the Japanese were as brutal and cruel, if not more so, than the French. And if the Americans are going to give us money and training to kill Japanese, yes, we need this money and training. And then when the Japanese threat went away, disappeared, they then fought the French, who came back and expected that they would take back what France had taken from them, that the French Empire would resume after the Japanese were expelled. And as I said, the Americans knew, they were of course aware that they had supported Ho Chi Minh and his colleagues against the Japanese, that they were allies. The Americans were fighting alongside them covertly with against the Japanese. Well, not so covertly because it was a state of war, but they were special operations units. The American military didn't go into Vietnam at that time. And then after the Japanese threat ended, the Vietnamese wanted independence, and then they ended up fighting the French. And then later, the Americans, after the French gave up. And so I'm Harry Truman. Imagine that I am President Harry Truman, President of the United States, so powerful. This is Marine Commando Forces of US supported French Expeditionary Corps land in Vietnam on July 27, 1950. So these are French soldiers. These are the Foreign Legion. I think the French Expeditionary Corps includes the Foreign Legion, the French Foreign Legion. These are French soldiers who are arriving back in Vietnam to take control of Vietnam with the support of the United States. We all know what then would happen. In 1965, Lyndon Johnson would send large numbers of American soldiers to fight against Ho Chi Minh and the North Vietnamese. That's 15 years before Lyndon Johnson sent those American soldiers in. Why did Harry Truman make this mistake? How did Harry Truman become an enemy of Vietnamese nationalism? Or not Harry Truman, but how did the Americans become opponents of Vietnamese nationalism? And of course, today, you know, in 2021, that the Americans are allies of Vietnam. Despite fighting this war that killed 60,000 US soldiers, killed hundreds of thousands of Vietnamese, America is allied against China with Vietnam. So this is my my backpack. I think this is it says somewhere on this backpack that was made in Vietnam. American LL Bean brand. They do lots of manufacturing of their products in Vietnam. And because now we have a common adversary in the form of China. Vietnam and the United States see a threat from China, despite the fact that the Communist Party of Vietnam rules in China, in Vietnam, just as it rules also the Communist Party rules in China. So let's role play. And there you see Viet Minh and French officer in Hanoi. The French attempt to come back. And then finally, the French give up because they cannot defeat the Vietnamese nationalists, despite having 90% of the American of the cost of fighting the war. The Americans were paying 90% of the costs for the French to fight their war, to take back their control over what we called French Indochina. Indo means south, like India, Indonesia, that area, Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia, it was all part of French Indochina. And the Viet Minh would fight, and finally the French forces were defeated at Dien Bien Phu in 1953, and after that defeat in Switzerland in 1954, Vietnam was divided into two states, North Vietnam and South Vietnam, and then you see the negotiations. And keep in mind, look at this Vietnamese banner here. Citizens of Hanoi, Vietnam, at a victory parade of 1954. After peace talks and withdrawal of the French. Notice the impact of French culture. There's many impacts of French culture in Vietnam. When it was part of the French Empire, the Vietnamese used the Latin alphabet, right? They used the Western Roman alphabet in their language. So my point is that French culture had a big impact on Vietnam culture. Even their alphabet is from the French, the Roman alphabet. But still, they fought against the French control of their country. I think the seminary that trains Catholic priests here at our university, there are a lot of Vietnamese students at Catholic University of Korea studying at the other campus where they train people, men, to become priests in the Catholic Church. There are a lot of Vietnamese students, or were before the pandemic, studying at the at the Catholic University of Korea seminary to train them to become priests. So I'm Harry Truman. I'm President Harry Truman. And it's 1945, 1946. It's a challenge to overestimate how powerful the, no, I don't want to do that. Click here. Click here. Yeah, how do I get rid of this? Click here. Don't click here. How do I get rid of this? Okay. Oh, shit. Okay, sorry about that. So keep in mind, the United States economy was nearly half, just the United States, in 1946, half of the world's economic production, half of the entire economic output of the entire planet of human species was just the United States. Half of the world economy was produced in the United States. With 4% of the world's population, the United States is producing 50% of the world's total economic output. The United States has the nuclear bomb. The Soviet Union does not have a nuclear bomb. So what are we supposed to do with the Vietnamese and the French? The French want their empire back. This is right at the end of World War II. After World War II, the French have been humiliated. The French military performed very, very badly when Germany invaded France in 1940. It collapsed basically in less than a week. Fighting would continue for 3 or 4 weeks, but in 4 days, the Germans got to Dunkirk, and you know the film that came out a couple of years ago. It was basically over at that point. The French just collapsed. It was humiliating. The French political system after World War II is very unstable. So many French people collaborated with the German occupiers under the Vichy regime. Vichy was the name of the city where the client cooperative government of the French working with the Germans was located under Pierre Laval, prime minister under the Vichy government. He was the prime minister, and Marshal Pétain, the great World War I French general who led the French at the end of victory of World War I, agreed to become president of the Vichy Republic that collaborated with the hated German occupier. Thousands of French people were killed. We don't really know. Only in the last few years, the last 20, 30 years, have the French begun to discuss what happened to those people that worked with the Germans in the occupation of France. Estimates are that maybe up to 10,000 French people were killed, executed by spontaneous hatred, by people in towns and villages, or were arrested by, but that's a rough estimate. Just say thousands of French people were executed for collaborating with the Germans. But keep in mind, most everybody living in France at that time somehow acquiesced, if not cooperated enthusiastically with the Germans. In occupied France, there were still clerks and mayors and city council people and government officials who were still taking orders from the Vichy government, because Marshal Pétain was president and Pierre Laval was prime minister, and they were implementing the laws of the French government that the Germans put in place. So how do you clearly differentiate or make a difference between those people that are Chinilpa, to use the Korean term, collaborators with the Germans, enthusiasts, versus those people that, they didn't love the Germans, but they still acted in a way to enforce German authority because they continued to run the government that occupied France, that took orders ultimately at the top from Berlin, from Germany. So why am I telling you this? This is very unpleasant, conflictual, disturbing, emotional issue for French people, just like for you Koreans, who cooperated with the Japanese when the Japanese occupied Korea, who was still benefiting from their family, their grandfathers or parents being Chinilpa, supposedly Chinilpa, that cooperated with the Japanese. You understand these feelings. See, when I talk about this topic with American students do not understand, unless they're maybe Black people or Hispanic people or indigenous people, indigenous Americans and Indians, white people in the US, they don't understand these feelings because they have never been occupied and exploited by a foreign power, the way you Koreans have, or the way Polish people have, or the way the French experienced. So you can get a sense that this is a very emotional topic. And so why did the Americans agree that the French could have their empire back and do what they were doing to the Vietnamese? Remember, America was the first country to fight and win an independence war in the modern times against the foreign occupier, the American Independence War, beginning in 1776 to fight against the British. America declares it favors self-determination, freedom for all. Why would Harry Truman, President of the United States, agree that the French would get back their empire? And the French occupation of Vietnam was as brutal as anything that the Japanese did here in Korea. Just as brutal. They exploited the Vietnamese. They viewed them as subhumans. They didn't view Vietnamese as real human beings. I'm not saying everybody, but there are these notorious pictures you see of French soldiers with the heads of Vietnamese they had shot and cut off, and lining them up and taking pictures and sending the pictures back home to their girlfriends. Like, look, we went hunting today. Look how many Vietnamese peasants we killed. That's the way they viewed the Vietnamese, the way the Japanese viewed the Koreans. The animals to be exploited. There was a terrible famine at one point in Vietnam. We don't know. Thousands and thousands of Vietnamese died. We don't know how many. I've heard amazing figures. Hundreds of thousands of Vietnamese died of famine in the French Empire before World War II, as France was using Vietnam to grow rubber, because rubber used to come from plants, right? Rubber was grown from trees. And they had tremendous rubber plantations in Vietnam to grow rubber for Michelin. Michelin is the big French tire company. And while they're growing this rubber and making lots of money, they're letting the Vietnamese peasants starve because they did not want to pay for the food imports to supply the peasants when this famine was happening. Why did Harry S. Truman agree to give back the French Empire to the French right after the occupation by the Japanese? So let's divide you into 4 groups. And so let me see if I can do this without breaking the computer. And so I think this is breakout rooms. So we'll make you into 4 groups. And so this is assign automatically, right? This button, assign automatically. Well, I don't know how to do that. I mean, I don't, I mean, because I have to send you a file. And so I need to know you, I need to know which groups you're in. So this is assigned automatically? This, okay. And we go here and then open the groups. So those of you, please join your groups there. Please join your groups. And we will Chamko means join, right? Chamka means join the group. I won't try to rename them. This person's not assigned. How do I assign them to group 4? Okay, so you have your computers, so you don't need to get up and move around. You can just communicate with your computers. You can if you want to. Maybe you should. So join those groups, and so and what's this? These people. Let's assign you to group 3. And assign you to group. Doesn't matter. Let's assign you to group 3 too. Okay, so and so group 1, I'm going to join that group. You people are late. Let me see, assign you to group 1. Okay, so I'm going to send you and so go to chat and go to share file. Then go to, if I can do this without breaking the computer. And I'm looking for the files here. And is that it? I think. No, that's not it. No. I'm looking for my. Oh, yeah, there it is. Is that it? No. Is that it? No. Oh, yeah, it is. Okay. And then we go to week 11 here. And we go. So group 1 here, you are the Viet Minh. You're going to make an argument. So please download that file. And then group 2. And so close that. Go to group 2, and you will also be Viet Minh. So we go to chat. And we go to Viet Minh. And so please, groups 1 and 2, you are Ho Chi Minh and General Giap. And you're going to make an argument as to why Harry Truman, President of the United States, and the United States government should support Vietnamese independence. Vietnam should become a free and independent country. Vietnam must not go back to being under French Empire, French imperial control. Make your argument to me, Harry S. Truman. And group 3 and 4, you are going to be French government and business leaders. Empire back. And so let me go here and open up the French government and business. Yeah, that's it. It should just. What am I doing wrong here? Well, I didn't join the group. Okay, I think I have to join the group. Did I send that to you? Do it again. Yeah, but it should just add you. It should just, do I have to do something? Oh, there it is. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay, and then group 4 also is And so here. And so please download those files. And so you're going to meet with me. And I'm Harry S. Truman, and I'm a very busy man. I'm President of the United States. And so let's go through these two files. You, the French government business leaders, are going to make an argument as to why the French Empire should be rebuilt. And so it states here, you are a French business executive and high-ranking government leader. Times are very difficult in France. During World War II, thousands of your people were killed, many factories were destroyed, crops burned, and animals killed. This has left your economy almost in ruins. Because of hard times, many workers and poor people have turned to the communists. Remember, during the during World War II, the Communist Party in France claimed it was the leader of the resistance of the French occupation, that they were continuing to fight the Germans on the ground in France, fighting and dying and being tortured by the Gestapo. And so France had a lot of political support. The communists in France had lots of political support in France because of their leadership against the Germans. The Communist Party is now the largest political party in France. An important reason the communists are so popular is because they played a leading role in the resistance to the Nazis. You believe that ultimately the communists want to take over the property of the wealthy and have all factories run by the government. The French Communist Party denies this, but you don't believe them. As you see it, unless the economy quickly gets better, the communists will be elected to control the government of France. But how to rebuild the economy? Before World War II, France had a number of colonies around the world, the most important in Indochina, which includes the country of Vietnam. France got most of its rubber from Vietnam, also much coal, tin, and tungsten. What's that? That's the first. I don't want that. Wonder how that happened. I don't know how that. See if I can get rid of that. Oh well, worry about it later, I guess. French businesses owned plantations and made great profits selling rice to other countries in Asia. Your government also forced the Vietnamese to buy certain French products, such as Bordeaux wine, so French companies made profits that way as well. So Vietnam also exported rice under the French occupation, even as Vietnamese peasants are dying from famine. France is forcing Vietnam to grow and export rice to make money for French landowners. But here's your problem. During the war, the Japanese took control of Vietnam. The Vietnamese communist leader Ho Chi Minh organized an army, the Viet Minh, to fight against the Japanese occupation. With Japan now defeated, the Viet Minh have declared Vietnam an independent country. However, as far as you are concerned, Vietnam is still French. You are angry. The Viet Minh have already given some of the French-owned land to Vietnamese poor people, peasants. They have said that the wealth of Vietnam will now belong only to the Vietnamese. If you can't take back your colony in Vietnam, French businesses will suffer tremendously. However, you don't have enough money to pay for a war against Ho Chi Minh. You need the support of a more powerful country to win back Vietnam from the communists. The most powerful country in the world is the United States. You also need the help of a stronger country to rebuild the cities, towns, and industries of France. You need loans and grants to buy American machinery and farm products like wheat and corn so you can get back on your feet. Remember, too, that if your economy doesn't begin to get stronger, the French communists will probably win elections by offering the poor and workers some of the wealth of the rich. But the United States needs you too. They want to sell their extra products to you and to invest their extra money in French businesses. You might point out to the American president that if the communists come to power, they won't allow US corporations to invest freely and take their profits back home. Okay, so that's groups 3 and 4. Groups 1 and 2, you are the Vietnamese nationalists. You are a member of the Viet Minh, a supporter of the Democratic Republic of Vietnam. This is the first all Vietnamese government in almost 100 years since the French first took over your country. You are from a peasant family in Vietnam. You grew up hating the French colonialists who controlled your country. The French say they brought civilization to Vietnam, but in your eyes, they brought nothing but misery. Sound familiar? In order to force the Vietnamese to work for them, the French put taxes on all huts, as they called them, and on salt, an important ingredient in the Vietnamese diet. The only way you could get money to pay the hated taxes was to go to work for the French on the railroads, in the mines, on their plantations. Conditions were hard. Many people died of injuries or diseases. The French drafted your people to fight in the wars against other countries. Of course, you had no vote. The French provided few services. In Vietnam, they built more jails and schools and hospitals combined. That's interesting. I was just thinking about how 15 years ago, it was learned that my state of Ohio in the United States spent more money on prisons than it spent on education. And of course, you know, majority of the people in American prisons are not white. The French made fun of your music, your art, your religion. They even outlawed your village homemade rice wine and forced you to buy their stronger French wine. I didn't know that. The French also required each village to purchase a certain amount of opium. They required the French to buy drugs that addicted them. Angered by all these injustices, you joined Ho Chi Minh's Viet Minh, an organization fighting for the independence of Vietnam. Like Ho Chi Minh, you became a communist, believing that everyone should share the wealth of Vietnam, not just a few foreigners and the rich Vietnamese landowners who do their dirty work. The Chin Pa. In 1940, the Japanese invaded Vietnam, and you switched from fighting the French to fighting the Japanese. During the war, you helped the United States, providing them with valuable information and rescuing pilots who had been shot down. When the Japanese were defeated, the Viet Minh took control of the country and proclaimed independence. This independence has begun to make a real difference in many people's lives. For the first time in Vietnam's history, national elections were held. People could choose their own leaders, communist or non-communist, so they were free and fair elections, evidently. A literacy program was launched that some say taught as many as 2.5 million people to read and write. The Viet Minh took over much of the land that the French had stolen and gave it back to the peasants. The new government passed a law legalizing labor unions and strikes and proclaiming an 8-hour workday. Your goal is freedom and independence for your country, but the French appear to want to take back Vietnam. They complain about communists like Ho Chi Minh. You will fight to the death before your country is made a colony again. You hope the United States government will support you in this freedom struggle. Okay, so you're in your groups. So what I would like you to do is prepare a statement. And of course, I forgot to bring a coin with me. So anybody have a coin I can borrow? 101 coin? A coin, piece of change? Nobody carries change with them anymore? I guess that's progress. Oh, thank you. I will show you a picture of that. Let me see it. Okay. So this is truly random. So heads, the top two people, somebody from the top two people speak first. And it is tails. Heads, It'll be the first person, the only third person in the group will speak. And it's heads, so that means the third person in the group will speak first for the group. So that means for group 4, who represents the what did I say? The government in
3 and 4.
okay, yeah, 1 and 3 and 4 is France. Thank you. 1 and 2 is Vietnam. So Sang Hon Yo Ho will speak for group 4. UJE will speak for group 1. Owen Tech will speak for no. Chon Su will speak for group 2. And there's only one person. What happened to group 3? Oh, no, sorry. And Yi Hyun will speak for group 3. And so prepare your statements with each other and help Owen, Yi Hyun, Chon Su, Yo Jae, and Sang Hyun Ho to make a statement. Now you can communicate from where you are, or you can get up and move around. Group 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe that's a good way to organize. Group 1 here, group 2 here, group 3 here. Group 4. Why don't we go ahead and move? That might give us more of a sense of being in class. So group 1 over here, group 2 over here, group 3 over here. So group 1 is over there. That's group 2 here, group 4 here. So you move so you can talk to each other, communicate with each other, and prepare a statement. And to me, Harry Truman, I will role play Harry Truman. I'm a busy guy. I have to run the whole world. So I can't spend too much time with you. And you have to just make an argument to me as to what you want me to do. Okay? And 1, 2, 3, 4, and keep in mind, the people that produce this exercise, they're Howard Zinn supporters. And I spent, well, I'll let you get together. And cut it down. And I should write a statement as well. You know, in these offices so much, now we don't have any scrap paper lying around for me to write on, because they don't want to have dirty classrooms. So let me find a piece of paper to write on. This heating system really just puts out air. I think it's lower. We don't have a class, we don't have a. Huh? I did turn it on. Just go up and, go up and So, heads, I am French government, tails, I'm Vietnamese. Good. It is heads, I'm French government. So I don't have a piece of paper, so I'm gonna have to write it on the board. I will use the affordance of the board. Okay. I've got my statement to a busy Harry Truman. He's very busy building a new world. So you've got 1 minute to finish up. It's the first time I've ever written my statement on the whiteboard. So this is a good idea. You know, crises and challenges often lead to creativity. So I think it's a good idea. I should write my statement on the whiteboard so you can all see my statement rather than just me try to write it on a piece of paper, you know, like I typically do. 30 seconds. So of course, I was assigned by the coin to be French government, business and government leaders. This is a nice room. They remodeled this room. They look pretty and everything. It used to be pretty ugly when I was here. It was an ugly room. Now it's nice, but it doesn't have a window. So we got to open. All right. So who's going to speak first? So I have to get to the Harry Truman role model. I'm from Missouri. I'm the last American president to become president who did not have a college degree. Harry Truman did not have a bachelor's degree. He couldn't finish school. So I'm a businessman. I'm a Democrat. I'm from the Midwest. I'm a farmer. I'm kind of blunt, you know. So, okay, I'll speak first. And I'm going to get reelected in 1948. That's something else that's on my mind. I should mention that, right? That I want to get reelected as president in 1948 because I became president because Franklin Roosevelt died in office from a stroke in 1944. So I became president, but I haven't been elected as president. So I really want to get elected as president in 1948. And then, of course, he'll become president. And he's the president during the Korean War. And heads, it's group 1 or 2. We'll speak first. And it is heads. Heads is group 1. And group 1 is it's heads. So group 1 is Vietnam. Yes. So who's group 1? Group 1? Okay. So who's going to speak for group 1? Group 1? Okay. So I'm a busy man. I'm building the new world order. Okay, so I got on my schedule, on my agenda, all of these things I have to do. I work 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. I'm under tremendous stress. I have domestic political problems, domestic issues, foreign affairs, and now these groups of people from Vietnam and France want to come talk to me about what to do about Vietnam. Where the hell is Vietnam? Oh, there's Vietnam. Hey, General George Marshall, where's Vietnam? Oh, what? So what do I have to know about Vietnam? Yeah. Oh, okay. Hi, I'm very nice to meet you. Okay, so you are some of the representatives of people who work with the Japanese in Vietnam. Thanks, sir. We won. Now, so why shouldn't we rebuild the French Empire? Why shouldn't we go back to the situation that existed before the Japanese began their reign of conquest?
So right now, our situation is very bad. I'm speaking French.
I'm sorry. I don't understand. Your English doesn't pretty so good. Well, I mean, he's a peasant. He was a peasant. I mean, you need to go to study English or American or French universities. You're a peasant. I mean, you're wearing Vietnamese clothes. You're the president of the United States. Dressed in weird, strange ways. You look kind of, you know, he's been sleeping and fighting in the mountains against the Japanese, so his hands are really, you know, he looks like he's a peasant, a Vietnamese peasant. And I meet these French business people and political leaders. You look like me. Harry Truman, he fought in World War I in the American Army, in the artillery, and he loved Paris. He loved being in France when he was fighting the war. He remembers all the French can shows. I love Paris. I know you people. So why don't you want to be part of that? Why do you want to, what do you want?
I want to see that I want to see first that I'll do it in a sense. Right now, I want to show that our history is new different from yours. And way back in the day, when you're in the original, we're putting taxes. So many unfair taxes. That's the same thing that's going on right now. Our lives are at stake. Brutal French. Right now, we want to fight for our nation, just like we're for nation. So I want that.
You French business and political leaders really want to exploit and oppress the Vietnamese the way you did prior to World War II, prior to Japanese invasion. Why won't you give freedom to the Vietnamese the way you fought for freedom against the Germans? Why? So who's heads, tails, 1, 2, tails. Who's speaking to you? Okay. Yes. Pierre, I remember you. We used to go to the Can club down in the what's the name of that? It's French. You go to see the French dancers in Paris. Yeah, nice to see you again. Come on, Pierre. Why don't you want those people to have the independence and freedom that you fought for the French against the Germans? What do you have to say to them? Why shouldn't I listen to them? When? Yeah, when they're ready? Oh, you say you're not ready yet for freedom. That you are the pinnacle, the mountain, the model of civilization, of being free and democratic. And you're going to civilize these people. You say you're teaching them freedom. You're trying to uplift them. They're not, of course, in the future, you will have independence, but you're not ready for it. Become more developed, more modern. Yeah, of course, the French will give their independence. Not yet, because people are not and there was goddamn communists. And so do you. They're always causing trouble. They're always trying to tell you that the answer is communism. That we take the land and money from the wealthy and give it to the poor people. Let's take all the money from the rich and give it to the poor. And most of you are poor. So, of course, you find that appeal. And the Soviet Union is all about socialism, socialism, socialism. So, you're saying that once these people become developed and sufficiently developed economically and civilizationally and intellectually, then you'll give them self-determination. Yeah? But you're not ready for it yet, particularly when Stalin and his spies approach in, carrying out their evil, secret conspiracy plans to carry out a coup d'etat, a seizure of power in Vietnam in order to bring it into the Communist Empire and rule Vietnam as the agent of Stalin. So you're not ready because you're not stable. You're not. That's what I wrote there when I said you're not ready yet for independence because socialism sounds very appealing to ignorant poor peasants, and most of your people are poor peasants. So, what is your response? Who's speaking for this group? Yes. So, poor peasant, Vietnam, nationalist figure. What is your response to the bunch? Thank you, France. You brought civilization to Vietnam. You even did. Did you do that? Did you make them buy oatmeal? Did you make them did? Who's speaking for this group? Who's speaking for the group? Yes. Did you really force them to buy drugs? What should you say? Okay, so his response, correct me if I'm wrong, your primary point is that they have grievances, yeah, bad things happen to you, but the Soviet Union is a Russian version of Hitler's Germany. The Soviet Union wants to do what Hitler's Germany tried to do, and they are on the verge of taking power in France. Now, of course, the Soviet Union is not going to act like Adolf Hitler because the Americans have the atomic bomb, not because the Soviet Union doesn't want to fight war. You know how many people Stalin killed? He doesn't care about how many soldiers died. He doesn't give a shit, right? What he does care about how it's Moscow, the atomic bomb dropped on it. And only the Americans have the atomic bomb. So how is Stalin going to exploit and expand the power of the Soviet Union in this vulnerable time in which France is weak economically, politically, There's great conflict in France between French who were charged with collaborating with Vichy versus the resistance. France is unstable. French are frustrated, angry, open to listening to radical actors like the French Communist Party claiming that they have the answer. And if you humiliate the French even further by taking away their empire, you feel proud that we have empire. Oh, we lost the empire too! That they might really turn to communists or become more supportive of the French Communist Party. Hey, this isn't a joke. I showed this in my European policymaking class. I have two citizenship. Italy allows children like me, born to Italian immigrants, who go to America and have babies before they are naturalized, to allow those babies to claim Italian citizenship. So my father came to the US in 1960. He became an American citizen in 1967. I was born in 1962. So I became available. I became eligible for an Italian citizenship. So I have US citizenship, but I also have Italian citizenship. And look what the Italian passport looks like. You see what that is? You know what that is on the Italian passport? You know what that is? That is the Red Star, Communist power, like in the North Korean war. Like in the North Korean war. This is how popular the Italian Communist Party was in Italy, because the Italian Communist Party was talking like the French Communist Party. The Italian Communist Party took the leadership in the resistance against the fascists, against the Germans. It was the Italian Communist Party that did the fighting and dying and suffered torture. It was the Italian Communist Party. And so after World War II, when they wrote a new constitution for Italy, after they voted out the king, no more king in Italy, they adopted a new symbol for the Italian state, and it has the Red Star. Anything else that has here, the peasants who grow wheat, like corn and wheat and barley, right? And the gear, the mechanism, the little wheel, like in a factory. So workers and peasants. This is how influential the Italian communists were. And this is how influential the French communists were in France. Then the CIA would work to make sure, the American CIA would work to make sure that the Communist Party of Italy never won an election. They cheated, they subsidized fake news in Italian, false news, fake news in Italian newspapers. One of the CIA's first operations, the new CIA in 1948, was to influence the first Italian elections after the war for the Parliament of Italy to make sure that the Italian Communist Party did not win, and they succeeded. So this isn't a joke. Like, this is a real possibility. Remember, capitalism and democracy did not look very, very appealing to many people. Capitalism gave the world the Great Depression. Capitalism gave the world the political opportunity for Hitler to come to power through an election. In Germany in 1933, he won an election. Prime Minister, and then he made executive. Under capitalism and democracy, the French government in 1919 to 1940, until the invasion, was completely weak. There were 40 governments in France. 40. How do you say 40 in Korean? Sashi governments from 1919 to 1940 in Paris. During the Great Depression, during the terrible crises. This is democracy. This is capitalism. The answer, Stalin and the French Congress are saying, is communism. Give communism a try. So his argument is that, okay, you're not really wrong. But you understand that if we give you independence, it's going to create conditions for the French Communist Party to maybe take power in France, in Paris. And the Soviet Union is using these covert, informal, tricky ways to spread its influence because they can't just invade West Europe the way they invaded Eastern Europe. So I'm here as Truman. I feel bad for you, but I really believe these communists, Soviet Union, Moscow, it really is trying to conquer the world. And France is a lot more powerful than we are. France is a lot more important to containing the Soviet Union than Vietnam. So I'm kind of sympathetic to their argument. So what's your response? Who wasn't going to speak? So me. So it's tails. Tails. You spoke great. It's tails. Tails. So what's your response? Do you have a response? I mean, that's a pretty impressive argument. Soviet Union is a Russian version of Nazi Germany. If we destabilize France by humiliating the French people, by dividing and destroying the French Empire, we might let the communists come to power in Paris. So, sorry, Vietnam, we're going to sacrifice you. You're going to have to go back to being the slaves of the French. What is your response? How about fuck you? That's your response. Sorry, I couldn't get it. But so what do you do if you're going to tell me to go jump in the lake? You might say, you know what? Maybe those communists are. Maybe Stalin and Mao, they don't in China. We don't want to go back to being slaves to the French. I don't care about you white people's arguments between Paris and Moscow, and you just want to be free. And here they're talking about the Soviet Union was the conqueror here, France, and we don't want to be. And you're supposed to sacrifice them. We're supposed to sacrifice you for their fears and insecurities, for the mistakes of Europeans, the wars and slaughters of Europeans against French and Germans and Jews and Russians. You just don't have to wait. So what's your response then? Tails. You agree? Disagree with what I said? That's you. Okay. What's your response? Yeah. So you can see, as I ally, as Harry Truman, with the French business and political leaders, you let's put it this way, you feel very strongly. You understand? You feel very passionately. Die, we were tortured, died, fled against the Japanese and the French. You died and fought. You know, the Americans are saying, sorry, your concerns have to wait. You got bigger problems. But you're not worthy of the dignity of other people, like the French people. You're not equal to the French people. No, you're not. And so, you might say, you know what? Maybe this communism, maybe there's a good idea. Maybe it's not some good points. Maybe what Stalin and Mao were saying. Maybe. So you end up going to the Soviets for help. If I'm going to help them, you're not helping them. You need help. And so who are you going to go to for help? The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Who's my enemy? Stalin. So who's your friend? Stalin. And even the Chinese, they will help you, even though for 1,000 years before 1945, you and China have been fighting each other. I mean, even much more so than the Koreans and the Chinese were in conflict. The Vietnamese and the Chinese have been in war for 1,000 years before 1945. But, you know, we need China's help, so today we're out. So that's what I wrote here on my point, right? I wrote, the Soviet Union is engaged in a global effort at imperial conquest. The French Communist Party is taking orders from Joseph Stalin to bring about the conquest of France from the Soviet Communist Empire. Got to use the microphone. Ooh. Definitely got to get a headset. Definitely got to get a headset. Stalin has to use his spies and agents to carry out his evil plots because he cannot simply invade Western Europe like he did Eastern Europe because the US has the atomic bomb. France is very unstable after the war, and Stalin and the communists will exploit the mass disillusion and frustration unless we can reestablish stability by reinvigorating French national pride, by rebuilding the French Empire. In the future, of course, we will give you, the Vietnamese, independence once you have achieved the level of civilizational and economic development that will stabilize them and prevent you from falling to the false allure of communism. And of course, this is what people today say. South Korea is the best example, right? Kim Il-sung was promising socialism, communism. He invaded the country. The Americans came in, helped stop Kim Il-sung in China and the Soviet Union. Then poured in lots of money into South Vietnam, South Korea. South Korea developed, became prosperous and strong, developed a strong middle class, and now you don't like communism. Okay, now you're ready for democracy. Woo! You're a case study. You're negotiable for this Cold War containment strategy. You're fighting containment in Asia and Africa. You. Yeah, I know, Park Chung-hee, he's not a very nice guy compared to Kim Il-sung. Kim Il-sung, Park Chung-hee, which do you choose? Park Chung-hee or Kim Il-sung? Okay, so now I have to stop the Zoom recording because the Zoom recording takes time to save. So I'm now going to exit Zoom